Welcome back to the MyPro Show, where we focus on leadership and discipline and how leaders make great people and build magnificent companies. I'm your host, Josh Conatser, the founder of MyPro. Today, we've got a very special guest, Sheryle Gillihan, who has designed her leadership skills anywhere from her military involvement to being the CEO of a company, eventually taking it over, and leading by purpose instead of the acknowledgement of a title. Very excited for today's guest, Sheryle Gillihan at CauseLabs. Well, welcome back to a new episode of the MyPro Show, where we focus on leadership and discipline and how to build great people with great companies. And today we have the pleasure of meeting with the one and only Sheryle Gillihan of CauseLabs, and one of my personal friends that I have had the pleasure of growing with in EO Fort Worth, the entrepreneurial organization of Fort Worth. So welcome to the MyPro Show.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for making the trek over here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's always good to do this in person.
Isn't it? Very different dynamic that a lot of folks have kind of lost over time since the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of that, you have a podcast show that was up and running for a while that was hitting in that physically detached era that we have grown through. So how did that work for you doing it?
So I wasn't sure that I was willing to do a podcast. In fact, I'd had several people approach me and they said that they could, put the schedule together and help me find speakers, and they could help write scripts, and they could do the editing. And of course, there was a ticket price to that.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not even comfortable being on camera. I don't think I'm ready to pay somebody to do that for me. But my team was also pushing me. We were doing some webinars already virtually, and this was pre-pandemic because we've been a virtual company for a while and had all of the digital tools to be able to do that. But I was so uncomfortable on camera and recording myself and looking at myself as I was recording myself. That was a terrible experience. I so much prefer doing this in person like this. But the team kept pushing me, like, try a podcast because it'll get you more comfortable on camera. And so I did it for about a year and a half. I recorded Woman-Owned Agency.
Woman-Owned Agency.
Woman-Owned Agency.
Okay. And where can our viewers find that?
So it's on anywhere that you can find podcasts: Apple, Google,
Spotify, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, and RSS.com, which is where I actually use that to stream it to all of the other services. And so I edit it myself. I found my own speakers, and that's time consuming to do all of that and to not have help. It was kind of a passion project for me, though, and it was also one where I was kind of training myself to have conversations on video and be a little bit more natural and comfortable with that, which I think it helped a lot.
I can't imagine you having a problem with speaking, because ever since I've known you, you've been on stage.
In person is different. In person's totally different. In fact, I could probably speak to a room of 1,000 people and be so much more comfortable than speaking to a video camera with just myself in the room.
Wow.
It's incredibly uncomfortable to be alone.
What a great discipline that you implemented in your life to just be vulnerable and get on camera. Clearly it's worked, because you're a phenomenal speaker that a lot of people just are magnetized to you,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. You did a great job last week.
Oh, thank you so much.
Everyone was very engaged. You got to the point.
And of course I texted Brooke right afterwards. I was like, well, I stayed on time, but I don't know if they got anything out of it.
Oh, we did. I've already implemented that and worked on it like 3 different days. So it's been good.
So for those that are listening that don't know, I did an AI course last week and was helping people create a custom GPT and just hoping they got something out of it. I use it daily. It's been really helpful to me. And the main thing was I needed to create personalities so it actually interact with it. Again, I don't like talking to myself, and I don't
Yeah.
like talking to a machine. So it has to have some personality to it.
So that sparks up something unique in you for me. You were the person that made me feel okay with using AI as a thought partner, specifically as a thought partner. So, it's the big topic everybody wants to talk about, of course. You took all the creepiness out of it, right? So I remember when you started your AI training speaking event, I think you had 3 pictures of yourself up on the stage, huge, as big as this whole backer. And you're like, okay, here's 3 pictures of me. Which one's real and which ones are AI? And you gave us a minute to really look at it and analyze it. Okay, is it A, B, C? And you were sitting back with the smirk on your face, because nobody could tell. And if I recollect, none of them were you in real life.
They were all AI.
And they looked exactly alike. And so you got our attention. Great job. So that was like a very impactful intro of you explaining what those clones can do, or whatever you call them. But the thing that was the thing that really resonated with me, that I want you to hear, because this is the important part about it, is that it's okay if used properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that resonated with me because I think our knee-jerk response to clone activity of ourselves or others is a little eerie because it's so sci-fi. Or is it going to misrepresent? And, people are already misusing it to do inappropriate things.
Mm-hmm.
But you were the foreface of how that tool can be used very beneficial to make you efficient,
Mm-hmm.
to respond to the same thing you're going to say over and over and over and over in a very more personalized way, was the big takeaway that I took from that. And you did a great job at that. And,
Thank you.
And likewise, communicating very clearly the benefits of using it as a thought partner. And that in itself is something I've adopted and have peace about, that it's not going to do the job for us.
Right.
But it is really, it's almost like a coach. I'm sure you've hired branding coaches and, EOS implementer coach, integrators. Yeah, integrators, implementers.
Implementers.
Yeah, the integrator is what works with the visionary. The implementer, I always get those 2 words mixed up. But, these coaches, and what I've found with a lot of these big business coaches, is they're really good at asking questions, the right questions, to get what's out of the back of your mind that you can't find. I've always said, the best thing about a good coach is they're going to shine a light over in the corner where there's a, shadow, and bring that to light so that you can grow. And that's kind of something that I've identified, that properly using ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you're in can facilitate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly to like training anybody on your team, for example, sometimes it just takes time in the seat, right? And so what you have in your brain as a leader, what I have in my brain, what I have experienced in the decades that I've been in the business, is not something that my coach actually knows. Like, they're not in the business with me. They haven't had those experiences. The purpose of a coach is to help unlock that. And I think that's a brilliant thing about EO too. We talk a lot about experience shares and not giving advice. And that's because we know how to solve our own problems. Like, we know a lot of the things that we need to do. It's usually, emotional things or baggage that's holding us back from making certain decisions. We've had the time in the seat. We've screwed up enough to know that we can recover from this, or that we can pull certain levers and make a change. AI as a coach and helping us ask those questions, if we know how to train it to be the kind of coach that we need, really just empowers us as leaders.
That's good. Well, let's switch gears, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And something fascinating, another fascinating thing about you is your upbringing in the military world and your involvement with the Army personally. And, how has that helped design the discipline and drive? Like, you've got a drive in you that's abnormal. Like,
Is it abnormal?
for most in the leadership, community, we're all kind of driven similarly, but you don't quit. You don't have quit in you, and you are very disciplined and structured on how you navigate in this world. So, if you would tell us about that, how the military and Army have, helped you develop those skills.
Yeah, so I think it started long before I joined the Army. My father was in the Air Force for 26 years, and so I was raised in a military household. I was also raised in a different generation, a different era, so it was very much yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And there was just a lot of discipline in the house. But in general, in a military household, it was probably more disciplined than any other household.
Still appreciate that yes, ma'am, no, sir type philosophy.
I do. I don't use it all the time, but I still appreciate it. And, there are certain areas where I'll still use it. I mean, I live in a small town now. I live in Grandview, and, there it still makes a lot of sense. It doesn't matter if the person's younger than you, it doesn't, it's not an age thing. And so it's just a matter of respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate it. And so I don't know if that's just, rural Texas or if that's true, globally.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a lot of places in the world, and I don't necessarily hear the yes sir, yes ma'am, not only because it's in a different language, but, they have their own colloquialisms and their own kind of mannerisms for showing respect. So I think just here in the South, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's one of those things.
Yeah.
But being raised in a military household, I think, just added a lot of discipline to my routine. I was also going to DoD schools. And so everybody in the school was what we called an Air Force brat. And so everybody was kind of living that same discipline. And so our school also had, a lot of rigor and discipline to it. When I moved back to the States when I was 14 and I went to a local high school here in Fort Worth, I was like, oh my gosh, these kids are crazy.
Really?
I was scared to go to school.
Really?
I didn't understand why nobody dressed up to go to school. I didn't understand why we weren't saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I didn't understand speaking out of turn and not just paying attention to the teacher. I came from Izmir High School, which across the whole entire school was 100 students.
Oh,
so
wow.
It didn't matter if you were a 7th grader or a 12th grader. You knew each other and you were friends because you were the only ones in the city that spoke English.
Yeah.
And so there weren't the level of cliques, and the classrooms were incredibly small. It's just different. It's a different world.
My daughter goes to a very small little private school. I think she's got 12 or 15 kids in her class.
That's wonderful.
The whole class. Yeah. So it's a different dynamic. And I appreciate the proper respect language. And I find myself as a man, whenever I say that, it sharpens your focus instead of yeah or huh, yes, ma'am, no, sir, thank you. The good old school opening a door for a lady and things of that nature. It's not lost, but it's pretty foggy in the world today.
Yeah.
It's just you nailed it. It's just respect. Doesn't matter what age.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you decided to get in the Army?
I did. So I went to the Air Force first, to my dad's credit. I
Okay.
did go to the Air Force recruiter first. They couldn't give me what I wanted in my contract, and so I actually ended up in the Army. I was an Arabic translator in the Army, and I didn't know Arabic before joining. I learned everything while I was in the military.
Wow.
And it's what I
How?
wanted to do. And
Okay,
so,
time out. How old were you when you learned Arabic? About
21.
Gosh, the reason I'm asking that is I try so hard to learn Spanish, of course, and it just kicks my butt. I can't get it down.
Well, English is not my first language. Tagalog's my first language. So I was born in the Philippines. Tagalog's my first language. English was my second language, which kind of took over as my native language when we moved to the United States when I was 6.
Wow. Okay. Learn something about you every time I meet you. It's great.
And then when I lived in Turkey, I learned Turkish fluently. Lost that pretty quickly when we moved to the States because I didn't know anybody that spoke Turkish here.
Right.
And then I took Spanish in high school and learned it pretty well. I would say the only thing that held me back from learning Spanish fluently is I wanted people to know that I was not Hispanic, I was Filipina. And I was very adamant that I was holding on to my heritage so tightly that I didn't want people to mistake me for not being Filipina. And that actually held me back from learning a language that would have been really helpful for me in Texas. But just given how I look and being half Filipina, half American, I don't have a lot of the Asian traits other than the tan skin and the black hair. And so I think it was very easy here in Texas to think, oh, well, you're Hispanic. I'm like, no, I'm not. And it wasn't anything against being Hispanic. It was just I wanted them to see I'm Filipina.
Sure. Good deal. So do you still remember any Arabic?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah. Probably pick it up a little bit quicker.
Actually, I went to India as one of my first projects with CauseLabs, my company. And we visited a mosque there. And as I was walking up the stairs to the minaret, I was like, oh my gosh, I understood everything that they just said.
Nice.
And I mean, it had been over a decade.
Wow.
Speaking Arabic, but I understood them. And so I do understand some things. I can't speak it as well as I used to. I can still read a bit.
Well, all right. So then you transition into the work life.
Yes.
After all that. And you definitely showed leadership skills in moving up the ladder to eventually take over CauseLabs. And I believe with all my heart you did that from a purpose-filled, driven, perspective of being a good leader to help others, not for a title. You've never been one to, oh, look at me as the CEO or owner or whatever. And, that's contagious to people around you.
Yeah. So let's start kind of at the beginning of that story. When I got hired at CauseLabs, I was actually removing a title. So I was VP of operations for the previous company that I was working for. And it just didn't align with the life that I was wanting to live and didn't align with my values. And also it was a 24/7 job. I would be up in the middle of the night, still working, still taking phone calls. And my husband found CauseLabs on Craigslist and said, I think this job is perfect for you. I said, I think this job is a scam. And so, but after a few interviews and getting to meet their client in person that they were wanting me to work with, I couldn't imagine not working at CauseLabs. So at the time, the company was named High Def and High Def Web Solutions. And then I helped the company rebrand to High Def Inc. And then I helped the company rebrand to CauseLabs. But when I was joining the company, like I mentioned, I was VP of operations at my previous position. And I took a pay cut and a demotion to project manager. But the project that I was going to be working on was a scripture translation for a language that had never been written before.
Oh, wow.
And I said, who gets to do this? Like, who gets to translate the Bible as their job? And it turns out there's quite a few scripture translation organizations out there. And I had no idea. I mean, even being in the translation space for the military, I just really had no idea how many languages there were in the world. Because when you're in business or when you're in the military, you're really focused on specific languages, trade languages and kind of the well-known languages. You're not really doing a lot with not that we didn't touch dialects, but more rural languages or dying languages. It turns out there's over 7,000 languages in the world, and I had no idea, even being in the linguistic space.
Wow.
But for scripture translators and for those that work in the faith sector, it's a mission for them to get the word of God into everybody's language. And part of that is so that they know that God is speaking about them too. God is speaking to them and through them, and that they are important. And, reaching somebody with their heart language is a powerful thing. And so I just had no idea. Even though I had a background in linguistics, even though I had been a translator, I had no idea. It was very easy for me because I learned languages so easily. Very easy for me to say, well, why can't they just learn English? Why can't they just learn Spanish? Why can't they just learn Arabic? Like, these are very popular languages. Millions, billions of people speak these languages. Why can't they just learn it? But there is something powerful about reaching somebody in the language that they dream in.
Mm-hmm. And they dream in. I caught on to that word you said there. That's important.
Yes.
If you think of it through that view, that is very different.
Yes.
That's your precious language of dream.
It really is. And usually...
Did you think that phrase up?
No, it's one that is used a lot in scripture translation.
Interesting.
Because they try to think about, like, how do you reach somebody's heart? Like, their family language. Like, what do they really speak? Because I think that's the language of scripture.
Yes.
It's the language of faith. It's like really reaching who you are. You do not need to learn our language. We need to learn yours.
I love it. And I believe you. That's a precious passion move that you made in life.
Mm-hmm. And so I was all in. It didn't matter that I was taking a demotion in title, a demotion in pay. I just could not believe the work that I was doing. And of course, I was a project manager. I was, helping the technologists and the designers and communicating with the clients and, working on dashboards and spreadsheets and the logistical things, right? But getting to go to India, getting to be in the rural villages, getting to actually speak with the people on the ground, the people who were faithful and did want the Bible in their language. I mean, as a woman of faith, that just really touched my heart. Like, getting to be there in person to see how important it was to them just really made it real for me. And after that, I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. And so the next project was a water, health, and sanitation project. And I grew up in the Philippines where we had no indoor plumbing. Like, I remember bathing in a wash basin in the front of the house, Wow. And so
we're so blessed here stateside.
To imagine that still happens so many places around the world, even within the United States, we've got areas that don't have clean water. It's incredible because when I look back at it, it impacted my story in my life, but I'm not going to say how old I am, but I've had a few decades. I thought that was an old problem. I thought that was something of the past. And to recognize in, 2012, 2015, that this was still happening so many places around the world, I thought, why haven't we solved this problem? Like, we understand indoor plumbing now.
Right.
And it's just so many places in the world that don't have access to that. And then the next project was about education and literacy, which also impacted my life. And, after that, I was just like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you. I'm in the right place. This is where I'm supposed to be. Every single project was something that had touched an area of my life where I had found immense opportunity and was blessed with something.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was my point to give back. It was my turn. And so I stayed with it. Even though it was technology, I didn't think I'd ever end up in technology.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's behind the scenes, it's pushing pixels, it's writing code, it's managing tickets. But yet at the end of the day, the outcome of that was something phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
something that really changed people's lives.
Talk about gratifying work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, you're translating the most precious book in the world, providing, clean resources and health and education. That's wow. There's not a whole lot of jobs that people do that have that long of an impact, That's amazing that you took that step of faith to just be a servant.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking to somebody the other day and I said, well, I don't know what happened to the people who, were able to get reimbursed for their latrines because of the monitoring system and evaluation system that we created. I do know that it ended up getting, 10,000 latrines funded in rural Vietnam.
Nice.
And imagine just the change in your life if you have that kind of hygiene and sanitation and that kind of dignity, added into your life. And I mean, it seems like a small thing, but it's powerful and it can change lives.
It is.
So that's why we stay in tech, because we believe that, using it right, we can change a lot of lives. We can grow positive impact. And the same is true for AI, which is, hearkening back to your first question, used ethically, used well, it has a lot of power to do good.
Yeah. And I mean, it's going to be used, period.
Mm-hmm.
So we might as well use it for good efficiency and coaching type, platforms.
Scammers that are going to scam are already using it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm
and
seeing
they're
it.
not going to stop.
I'm already seeing it. There's things that have happened within our infrastructure that are like, oh my gosh, wow, that's clever,
Mm-hmm.
Stumped us up a little bit. I didn't really grow up in a high tech environment. It was more kind of hands on and playing outside and all that good stuff. But I have made myself adopt tech, especially, in my businesses. And it is amazing you have to. I was about to say how much more efficient you can be. That's the obvious, but you really do have to.
You have to.
Like, there's no way we could do anything off of a spiral notebook anymore, because you have to be able to access whatever that information is all over the place.
Right.
And whatever device you're closest to. Like you, I heard you say last time that you only have a desktop and you don't bring a laptop home. There you go. I do the same thing. We got to turn it off, right?
We do have to turn it off. So as someone who works in tech, I'm probably more aware of my tech habits than anybody else. Not that I don't ever get into the habit of doom scrolling.
Right.
We all do. But when it was time to buy my new machine, I was looking between whether I wanted a new laptop or a desktop. And I decided that it would be good for me to leave it on the desktop in the office, close the door, because we have a home office. Since the pandemic, we haven't had a couple of years after the pandemic when our lease ran out, we haven't had a physical office. And so my home office is right there. It's so easy for me to stay in there all night long because I'm home. And so having the desktop has been really nice because I can just close the door and I'm done for the day.
Yeah. Gotta separate.
Are definitely things that I can still access on my phone, but I limit the apps and the things that I can actually access on my phone. And again, just compartmentalizing that so that I can turn off my brain, not because I don't want to be available to my work, because I'm always available for it as a business owner. But it gives me the space and time to think about my business and think about the things that we're doing.
All right. So space and time to think. Here we go. Never heard of anybody do this, and I think it's one of the most brilliant things ever, is tell us about your Think Lab Day.
Oh, so Lab Day.
Lab Day. Okay.
So this wasn't actually started by me. It was started by a previous CEO
I'm going
of
to give you
CauseLabs.
credit. I'm going to
Okay.
give you credit for it. You have Think Day.
So CauseLabs does something quarterly called a Lab Day.
Lab Day.
For a while, we did it monthly when we had a larger team, but now we've moved it to quarterly, and it's basically one day a quarter or one day a month if you're doing it monthly. We're usually the last Friday of the month, where you do not touch any client work. You do not have any external meetings. The day is fully dedicated to learning something new or building something. And the reason for that is you need creative space to just really explore new things. For our developers, it was exploring new frameworks, and that really helped us move the needle and adopt the technology and the frameworks that we needed to adopt as other things were being sunset. So technology evolves so quickly. And our developers are always interested in the next thing. But, as a company, you don't necessarily want to grab onto every shiny object.
Right.
And so you need to give them the space and time to explore.
Okay. So there's like no topic of discussion. You guys are walking in, whiteboarded out, boom, let's chat. And
Actually,
then just wherever it goes, it goes.
When we had a larger team, people could actually team up, and amongst those teams, they could work on completely different things. And they can decide as a team what they want to work on. So if there is a developer interested in learning a new JavaScript and they want to build out a tool of some sort, then, you may have a project manager on your team that's helping to, organize the day and make sure we hit the time limits, because, you've only got a certain amount of time in that day to get it done. And then, deciding, well, what are we going to present? Are we actually going to present a working prototype? Are we going to present a PowerPoint? Who's going to put together that PowerPoint? And what are the things that we're trying to learn? What are the questions that we're asking? And so the team works together and creates their own agenda for what they want to present. It's like bringing back show and tell.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, it's really cool that you give them the autonomy to have that space of creativity. And that's one of the biggest differentiating factors between what CauseLabs does and a lot of other people that are in your tech space is you have the room for that kind of creativity, and empowering and deputizing your team is very unique. That's gotta, I would assume that brings on a higher caliber individual that you get to work with, right? Because they're not so, stuck with your thumb over their decision-making processes,
I would say there's a learning curve there.
Yeah.
Most people are not used to that kind of autonomy, and most people aren't used to thinking outside of the box and exploring anymore. It really depends on how long you have been ingrained into the workforce in the we're going to tell you what to do and how to do it kind of space. I would say that we're fortunate and we're a little bit different as a company in that CauseLabs does do a lot of R&D for organizations that they partner with. We are more of a strategic partner to decide, like, where do you want to invest your dollars? We have said no to clients before and said, like, we're not going to be the ones to build that for you. And not because not because they weren't willing to pay enough, not because it's not feasible, but sometimes because it's not the ethical thing to do.
Yeah.
Other times because it doesn't make sense. The return on investment isn't there. And that's also, from a dollar perspective as well as from the impact perspective sometimes. A great example of that is there was a partner that wanted us to build an iPhone app. All of their board members had iPhones. They wanted an iPhone app. This was at the time when we were building a lot of mobile applications. And the audience that they were actually trying to reach were inner city kids in Chicago who did not own iPhones. Because we're like, why are you going to spend this much money to build an iPhone app when every single one of the people you're trying to reach owns an Android? And they were like, well, can't you just make it work on both? I'm like, no, these are totally different code bases.
Yeah.
These are totally different technologies. So knowing your audience, I mean, I know people tout that all the time in marketing, but it's important in strategy and decision making as a company too.
That's awesome. Good. I think something else that is probably part of that learning curve is actually like going there in thought and creativity, because we're so distracted by so many screens that are everywhere, including our pockets, that we didn't grow up having. One of my favorite books ever is called Deep Work. And it discusses the importance of intentionally having a quiet, safe place, for lack of a better word. Like for me, it's going out into the country, going hunting or, hanging out on the ranch, and emotionally, mentally, and all of the senses. After about a day, it usually takes me about a day getting out of the city, where everything starts to slow down. And, that whole, you can actually see the tree limbs and the birds sitting in it instead of there's a bunch of trees. And it takes a little while. You can't just turn that on and off when we're in such a busy environment. So I can imagine that would be a learning curve, as you stated, and a bit of a cadence that you have to lead the path on with these individuals on how for them to, on how they can mentally and emotionally get to a creative place that's creating something that's has value.
And that's why we present to the team, because then we can decide, well, are any of these viable? Are any of these things that we as a team, need to spend another lab day on? Or is it something that we need to invest in as a company, whether it's a new technology or a new application that we've decided, or a new product we've decided we want to build? It helps surface the brilliance of the talent that's all around us.
Yeah.
And it gives them the capacity to play during that time. It gives them the capacity to fail during that time. And we all learn something as a team.
Speaking of failing, tell us about a time that you failed and strapped your bootstraps back up and got on with it, and where you found that gas to put back in the tank.
Most of my failures are personal failures.
Okay, well, that's big.
In business, I mean, not that I haven't failed. I've certainly failed. I mean, sometimes I've dropped the ball on something. I've forgotten something. I've let something slip through the cracks. In those instances, it's just taking accountability for it, apologizing, making it right. The benefit of having the clients that we have is the partnerships that we have with them, and they know that we will make it right. So I'm not a perfect person. Nobody is. But the biggest failures where I have a hard time really taking the accountability that I need to are the personal ones. Yeah. And I think that's because it's just so close and it's so emotional. I have a hard time getting past those. That's why I have a therapist. I highly recommend it to all leaders, just to be able to process those emotions and to be able to process, everything that I'm going through and the conflict related to failure. In business, it's so much easier for me to accept it and move on and to take the lesson and do something good with it. My personal failures, it's a little bit harder. I know I didn't pull a specific moment out of there,
Well,
but
you don't need to. I'm not asking you to, how's that saying go? Your dirty laundry. I'm not asking you to air your dirty laundry out. It's the, what I'm looking for that I believe you're talking about is just, how to overcome those, because personal failures are equally as important as the business ones, if not more, because if we didn't have these personal goals that we're going to succeed and fail with, then that heavily impacts our business. That's a direct line, If things aren't right at home for me, I'm not the leader that I want to be.
Exactly.
I don't feel like the leader that I want to be when things are wrong at home. And that makes it tough. And, sometimes that's out of your control.
Right.
With spouse or, your kid or health, whatever that may be. And finding the strength and focus to kind of compartmentalize that so that we can be the leaders in what I would call our other family. Like at home, I've got my family, and at work, I've got another family that you and I share the same philosophy on of, how much we really do care and pour into these people, not just financially, but with our time and passion of life. I know your faith is a big factor in that, and it is for me because I've heard you talk about it many times. So would you probably allude to that being the majority, strength behind how, let's just broadly say, a personal, what you would call a failure, or maybe not hitting the mark as you want,
Faith is definitely a big part of what keeps me going. I can't imagine not having my faith. And, it helps me recognize that every day is a new day to start over and do better. When my daughter, my youngest, was about 9 years old, she went to Vacation Bible School. And you know how at the end of the day they have a service and then they invite anybody up who accepts God. And I kind of arrived towards the end of that, and I was like, where's my daughter? And she's up at the front of the stage. And I was like, honey, why did you do that? Were you just wanting a free Bible? Because we have so many Bibles at home. And I was like, you've already accepted God. You've been baptized. We let her choose when to get baptized, and she met with our pastor and everything. And so it was a whole ordeal. And she said, Mama, I have to make that choice every day.
Wow.
No greater wisdom than that
from a child.
Out of a child.
Holy moly.
And I couldn't correct her. I was like, you are so right. We do have to make that decision every single day. And I do think that is a part of what gives me strength to keep going. Even when I feel like I've let everybody down, even if I felt like I let myself down,
God ain't ever given up on us.
That choice every day, and every day is a new day. Every minute is a new minute. And so, just make the choice to be positive and optimistic and look at a different perspective. So my book is completely about perspective. There was a point in my life, one of my biggest failures, where I gave up on everything. And it kind of broke me. And there was just this realization that reality was this false narrative. And I really dug into like the study of like, what is belief? What is reality? What is perception? And how do we determine these things for ourselves? How do we determine it individually? How do we determine it as a family, as a community, as a nation, as a global human race? There's so much science and psychology and philosophy around truth and belief and how it shapes our world. And so I think you can choose how you respond to things. You can choose your awareness. You can choose your focus. You can choose optimism. You can choose hope.
Mm-hmm. I believe you. I do. I can tell a difference whenever I do choose that. And like anybody else, I have days of weakness where I might not choose the best thing, to be lazy or zone out for way too long. And you can feel it all through your body, the difference. And it's important to have, other people in your life, confidants, that will help encourage you in those. I had one of those days yesterday with a buddy of mine that reached out to me, and he was just like, brother, I don't understand what season I'm in right now. Like he's a get up and get it going kind of guy. And he hasn't been for almost a month. He's tailing off of an extremely successful year. And the really cool part about that celebration that we had, which is helping him get back to it, is he had one of the best years of his career, putting in about 25% of the effort or time. I wouldn't say effort, but time. So his efficiency has quadrupled to provide the same, if not better outcome, which is what we all try to do as entrepreneurs and leaders, right? But he's in this rut right now. And a lot of that, I believe, because I know him well, came from he started isolating and not reaching out for encouragement like we all do. Like we all need is what I would rather say. I know I do. As strong-headed and motivated as I am for myself to do what I know I need to do, there are moments where just need somebody to kind of slap me around a little bit, right? Stop whining about this and that and just go try. Show up, do it anyways, even when it sucks. Choose optimism is a huge part, because that lifts a lot of weight off of the obstacle that's in front of you. There's always two ways to look at it.
The MyPro Show is proudly sponsored by MyPro Construction.
Did you know in the state of Texas, you have to have a license to professionally cut hair, but you do not have to have a license to replace someone's roof, commercially or residentially. Choose your contractor wisely. Give MyPro a call and experience the 5-star service.
For my home, it's MyPro.
Another one of your passions, and I can't remember the detail of why you love it so much, is gardening.
Similar to you going out hunting. It's just...
That's your deep work spot.
Putting my hands in the soil, One of my favorite books is one called Messy.
Okay.
So you've got deep work, I've got messy. It is my deep work spot, but it is something that is, you have to put in the patience. The seed doesn't sprout right away, and you have to prepare the soil. And there's a lot to it about nurturing something and growing something and waiting for the reward. And just giving myself the creative space to just think. I do a meditation practice daily, but the gardening is kind of an extension of that. Usually it's a solitary activity.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not, you know, um, putting out, acres of crops or anything like that. I'm not farming.
Right.
I'm just gardening for personal satisfaction and joy. And I know that whatever I plant now, it could be months before I see it actually
Mhm.
sprout. And I have no idea what it's going to look like when it does. It's something artistic, but it's like painting in the background first and just waiting to see what is revealed later on.
Nice. That's fun. Well, unless there's anything else that you would like to share with the world while you have their captive attention.
Well, they can reach me at CauseLabs.com or SherylGillihan.com. SherylGillihan.com is where I do a lot of my personal projects, my podcasts, my book, and my AI courses.
So what's the name of your book?
The World We Know.
The World We Know.
Mhm.
I'm going to have to get a copy. I do not have one.
Yeah, I would say that while CauseLabs is not intentionally building AI products, I've been dabbling in AI so much long before the craze of 2023. Before generative AI, our company was already using AI behind the scenes to do some of the work that we were doing. So it's something that we're very familiar with. But this new generative AI, it's fun, and there is a lot that can be done there. And I'm just trying to figure out, what are the things that we can do with it as business owners, not only that creates efficiency, but prepares us for where technology is going. The landscape on how we are marketing as businesses, how we are being found as businesses, and how we stay relevant as businesses is going to rely a lot on what happens with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just been exploring in that space.
And you are being very conservative saying that you dabble with it. I would say that you're quite a bit further down the rabbit hole than dabbling with it.
Yeah, probably. You're right.
Yep. I have also heard you say a couple of times that, you're not going to turn into an AI trainer or coach. And I've heard you speak that very specifically. And I understand probably why, so that people aren't just like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I code this? You've drawn a pretty serious line in the sand not to live in that world. Like, you help, which is precious, but you don't want to get all in on that, right?
So I coach teams on how to adopt AI. It's more of a mindset coaching. Similar to what you said earlier, you said, I'm not afraid of it anymore. It doesn't seem creepy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that they want to, as leaders, they want to go all in on AI. And when they come to me, I say, well, I won't build that for you unless we train your team. I think that the team has to be fully on board with it, in part because they are the ones going to be impacted by it. You don't want them to be afraid that they're going to lose their job, unless they are going to lose their job. But if you're willing to keep your team and you want to keep your team, then you need your team to be aware of what you're building, why you're building it, how it builds their capacity, and what you see in the trajectory of the future. It is easy to make a lot of assumptions right now about where AI is going, and people want to be at the forefront of that. And so they are investing a lot of money in building things custom. And we are a custom development shop. So it'd be very easy for us to move into that space and build products for people. But similar to what we saw with mobile applications and why we got out of building mobile applications is that we are in an AI bubble right now. And we're going to recognize that it's going to be really difficult to maintain and continue building custom applications. That a lot of money is going to get poured into it, and the return on that investment likely won't be as high as they think it is. A lot of the larger companies, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Amazon, they're all building AI into the things that they're doing. If you think about the tools that you use right now, a lot of the big ones probably already have some kind of AI built in.
They do.
It's going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't need to build something custom anymore. So
It's because it's just going to be available.
when generative,
Is that what you mean?
Yes. When generative AI first started, I connected to the API and I built my own email summarizer. It would summarize my emails. It would draft my responses. And this is before they built it in. So it was about 2 years before it finally just got built into Google, right? Now it's there. I don't even need that tool anymore that I built. I mean, thankfully, I built that myself. I did it in a day. I knew exactly what I was doing. And so it's not a huge investment, right? But some people are investing millions of dollars into building something that could be antiquated in a year.
Yeah.
It could be antiquated in 6 months, depending on what changes with AI models.
Yeah. It is happening crazy fast.
It's very fast.
That's a factor that, matter of fact, at one of the last training classes that we were at with EO, I was discussing with another entrepreneur about, planning, per EOS, planning your, 1 year, 3, 5, and 10 year.
Mm-hmm.
And to even try to dream about 10 years, really much less 5, is ridiculous now, in my opinion. Now, call me wrong. I'm looking through the lens of the industries that I'm in, but that's the exact reason, is
Mm-hmm.
because of technology. And now that AI is a part, I was saying that before AI was super popular, because we were trying to plan out like 5 years in our vision traction organizer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you get 2 years in, and the industry's changed, the economy's changed, the way that, in my industry, the way that insurance and real estate
Mm-hmm.
impact the construction world has changed so much that nobody could foresee.
Right.
I don't know. There's no telling what's going to be going on in 5 years. So we strategically plan for the next year and have, reasonable targets that we want to hit, maybe 3 years out. But past that, I don't find it a viable use of time and strategic planning to go further than that, because technology changes so fast.
It's evolving so quickly.
You're going to be in a different world in 3 years. There's no
Absolutely.
I heard something at, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've been looking at the Amazon drivers to see if they're wearing them yet. But I can't remember if you were there. It was the one over here at the Arlington Memorial where I believe it was Amazon has made the decision that it is more efficient to provide all of the smart glasses, whatever brand and kind they're going to get for all their drivers, instead of having them take a picture every time they drop a package off at somebody's door, that their glasses are just going to do it. So they're it makes more sense for them to buy how many pair of these, right, for all their drivers, and for them to just wear it, and they can probably drop 2 or 3 more packages off a day just by that one technology integration across their whole infrastructure. So that upfront investment, I'm sure, would pay for itself in 2 weeks, probably, with the amount of additional packages that they can drop.
Right.
So there's a perfect example. Nobody would have thought, 7, 8 years ago that drivers were going to be running around with glasses taking pictures. Who goes Christmas shopping anymore? I miss that. I do. I personally like walking around with someone in mind that I want to buy a present for, and not really knowing exactly what I'm looking for, right? And just like, oh, that's them, a cute outfit, or, for the wife or whatever. Oh, yeah, my daughter would love to play with that. Or, yep, that's my buddy's toy, Now,
And imagine the data they're going to collect with that. I mean, I think efficiency is one part of it, but I think they recognize that the capabilities of that particular device are only going to grow from here, and that there's so much that they can do with that, you know?
yeah, they already know everything you like. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. Just click a button and boom, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like to celebrate with your team? Let's end with like some fun stuff. So you've had a great year. You want to do you want to do a celebration with your team. What does that look like in your world?
Going out to dinner is always the way to do it.
Yeah.
We love going out to dinner together. Yeah. One year we did it at Simply Fondue here in Fort Worth. Know the owners there. Great team, great couple. And yeah, I think that you kind of get to eat family style. You have to cook your own food at Simply Fondue, but but you get to eat kind of family style. So anywhere that you can eat kind of family style is the way to do it, I would say.
Good.
Yeah.
You ever do any like active activity? You do any activities where y'all have to,
Like challenge activities.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever gone to the challenge course or anything like that.
Get out of an escape room.
I'm trying to think about any. Maybe we should do a laser tag day or something. Paintball hurts too much, so laser tag.
It's been a minute since I've done that. So, well, thank you so much for spending time with us here and, making the drive over. Really appreciate it. I know you got a lot on your plate, and I know that people will get some nuggets from the leadership and discipline that you've implemented into this world, and look forward to continuing to grow with you.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.